Okay, I need to take a little bit of a breath now because I am so excited about our next guest. She truly is one of the people I admire most in the industry that I work in. She is arguably the most powerful voice in television today. The creator of Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, and How to Get Away with Murder, and a best-selling author. She is known for her groundbreaking storytelling, her ability to make anyone cry, her candor and humor in the face of her critics, and for never shying away from speaking her mind. Her first book, Year of Yes, was published in 2015, and she recently launched her new editorial website, Shondaland.com. Netflix just signed her to an unprecedented deal, pronouncing her one of the greatest storytellers in the history of television. She is a cultural force transforming the industry and is the epitome of not backing down. Over the course of her career, she has become an empowering voice for women in the entertainment industry. She has spoken out against the glass ceiling that exists for women, specifically women of color and in the LGBT community. And she was named to Time Magazine's list of 100 people who help shape the world and is currently number 15 on the 2017 Fast Company list of brands that matter, and notably the only individual name on the list. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome one of my heroes, Shonda Rhimes.
Thank you. Are we doing questions first? I thought I was speaking first.
Oh yeah, you're gonna speak first, that's right.
Hello, everybody. So before I start, I want to give a shout out to Brandy Davis, CPA, and all of her people at MGO, because they keep me responsibly prosperous, and they're in here somewhere. Yeah. So if you asked most people what I do, they would tell you that I make TV shows, or maybe that I make TV shows and I have an online platform, Shondaland.com. If you ask me what I do, the mature front room thing that I'd tell you is that I'm a writer, a producer, and the CEO of Shondaland. I run a company that handles every aspect of a very popular aspirational brand. I've launched Shondaland.com, a thing that doesn't give you lifestyle, I give you life. I own an entire night of the most powerful advertising dollars on television. I have 5 television shows in production that put almost 80 hours of programming on your screens this season. Yeah, and then there's what's coming on Netflix. There are the products we create, the work we do with other brands, the greeting cards I wrote that you should all be giving to your mothers. It's a long list. It's Shondaland. The point is, it's busy, and it sounds very complicated and fancy when I tell it that way, and that's fine with me. I work very hard, and I like people to know that, because when it comes to hard work, A, some people out there have ideas about writers, and B, some people out there have ideas about women, and all of those ideas can suck it. But if you ask me what I do, and so if you ask me what I do in front of the grown-ups, in front of company, while I'm wearing my Sunday shoes, that's what I'll tell you. But if you ask me when it's just us, here and now, in the back room, in the speakeasy parts, I'll tell you something different. It's not fancy, it's simple. I mean, we can get real. I can tell you what I do in one short sentence. I'm a storyteller. I tell stories. I tell stories for a living, mostly made-up stories. I make stuff up. I spin yarns, I knit tales, I weave dreams, whatever I want. I make stuff up for a job, and I like to say I'm a professional liar, but that makes people super nervous, so I don't say it that much anymore. But I'm a storyteller, and that's what I do, and it's not new, and it's not special. It's a job basically as old as time itself. It's tribal. It's a campfire. I imagine stories, and then I tell them around what at some point humanity has all collectively decided and agreed to treat as the modern campfire, the television screen, or really any screen. Our campfire, you gather around, I tell stories, the show starts, a spark is lit. If the fire begins and the wood is strong and the story is good, we all sort of build a warm, cozy campfire to gather around that burns and burns for a very long time. We have a campfire community to show up to each week to hear the next tale. a community campfire. The stories have built the campfire community. The stories have built a community, and suddenly we have a tribe. That's what I do. I build tribes. In modern times, that is what a good show does. Builds tribes, builds community, builds a following of loyal fans. It creates stands and shippers, and it makes Olitz people and calzonas and Team Jakes and wig-snatched Annalise lovers. I build tribes with campfire stories. Grey's Anatomy is a campfire that burns bright enough to be seen all over the world. And it's a campfire that's burned so long that its sparks continue to attract and warm brand new communities, even while the original community is busy adding logs to the 300th fire. Many of those tribe members have given birth to new tribe members, and many of the tribe members are literally the next generation of surgeons operating on you. So a tribe is a powerful thing. It's a sense of belonging, a sense of loyalty, a sense of team, sometimes a sense of purpose. Creating a tribe with your story is not an easy thing, not on TV, but it can be done. Star Trek, Game of Thrones. I am personally a hardcore member of whatever tribe The Crown is trying to make. I'm very team Queen Elizabeth all the way. Yeah. It's not easy, the tribe making with the stories, but it's what I do, and it's what I do well. I'm very good at it. I could stand up here and pretend I'm not, or do that thing where you insult yourself until someone else tells you how awesome you are at something. But that takes too long. And it also goes against everything I'm about to tell you. Because I'm going to tell you what goes into telling stories strongly enough, on fire enough to build a tribe, to build a following, to make shippers and stands and a team and a community. And you don't have to be a storyteller like me, and you don't have to make television shows. You just have to want to be good at what you do. You have to want people to be interested in what you do and to care about what you do. And you have to want people to care about you. Care enough to hire you. Care enough to work with you. Maybe to date you or befriend you. To buy into the soul of whatever it is you're offering them. If you want to lead in whatever form that takes, you want to lead well. And to do that, you have to lead in such a way that when you look back, you know that the people following you are doing so loyally, willingly, honored to be there, and inspired to be in your footsteps. And it doesn't have to be about bringing other people with you. If you just want to wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and feel a sense of purpose, so you're not merely going to work and coming home and going to work and coming home. If you want to feel inspired and alive, like you're breathing for more reasons than just oxygen, this is what I've learned along the way, and it gave me a sense of purpose and it made me feel more alive. I'm going to tell you what I think it takes to make a campfire worthy enough for people to want to gather around, because that's what I know how to do. And I don't pretend to be a genius, although, okay, I like to pretend that I am a genius, but that's because it helps. But I don't pretend to actually know everything about everything. I just know this. Storytelling isn't actually about the story. It's about the telling. It's not which story you tell, it's how you tell it. I mean, we've all heard the same story told by more than one person. We've all heard a similar show idea. Let's do a show set in Washington in the political world in and around the White House, right? That's The West Wing, that's Veep, that's House of Cards, that's Scandal. The story is made original and specific and special by its storyteller. The storyteller makes the story. Gathering people around a campfire is all in the telling, in the quality of the storyteller. There's no gimmicks, no tricks, no fancy buzzwords, just a storyteller. A story well told is all you need, and that is always true. It's as old as time itself. It all comes down to who you are, and it always comes down to who you are. So what I'm saying is this. Who you are, pretty much, has to be a campfire. When you come to me on Thursday nights for a story, I don't mess around. I can't afford to. With each show, I have about 42 minutes and 19 seconds to set that campfire roaring, to tell you a story so compelling that it draws you in. And it is a very expensive 42 minutes and 19-second gamble for my boss, the television network. ABC has a lot riding on it. Thursday nights are some of the most expensive nights on TV, and if I don't make the 4219 work, if I don't bring all of my inner Beyonce and Rihanna, if I don't get America sitting around that campfire, they're going to give my time slot to someone who will. And if I'm going to keep my time slot, I've got to tell the best story I can. So when I sit down to tell the story, to fill the 4219, the first thing I always remember is that I am the one telling the story. Me, not someone else. So I would say lesson 1 is deliver. People came to that campfire to hear my story, and yes, if they love it, I will be praised. I get all the glory. But if the story doesn't work, and if the fire doesn't burn, and the audience doesn't want to stay around for more, I will be blamed. And that is exactly what should happen. If I am the storyteller, I am responsible. It's in my hands, so I damn well better deliver. My telling of the story, my voice, my views, my idea, my characters, my plot, my dialogue, my writers in my writer's room understanding and delivering my sense of character and plot and dialogue. The audience came for Shondaland, so they better get Shondaland. It's a little like standing up here on the stage. If I just stood here and did nothing, hoping that one of you got up and did something, or if I stood here and apologized and generally did what I could to make sure that you didn't expect anything, no, I'm up here, and I'm responsible for my time up here, so I'm delivering. You have that same responsibility. You always have that same responsibility. You're responsible for the telling of you, of your story, for the presentation of you, how you are seen, how you are viewed, how you're met. In any situation, you should consider the fact that everyone there should be actually getting you, the you that's compelling, the you that's worth staying for, your voice, your views, your ideas, your character. You have to deliver yourself because you may not get another chance. I mean, plenty of shows get canceled after one episode. So show up and deliver. 2, I try as hard as I can when I'm spinning a tale to be as courageous as possible in taking my characters to their places and through their paces. Olivia Pope is this white hat wearing hero. That doesn't mean I'm not going to still have her fix the presidential election and beat a man to death with a chair. But that's one of the secrets to a campfire. Be courageous in the stories you tell. Don't take a safe route. Don't always do what's been done before or what's expected. And it can be hard taking risks with your story. You have your community to think of. What if that risk is the exact thing that dampens the enthusiasm or causes everybody to abandon the campfire? What if no one likes what they do? But what if they love it? So you have to be courageous, and courage is about being nervous and unsure and terrified and doing it anyway. I think confidence is overrated. You don't have to be confident. You don't have to be perfect. You don't even have to be fully experienced. You just have to have the courage to raise your voice and take the chance. The courage to try, to make the attempt, to have an opinion, to be a person who can think for herself, to go this way when everybody else is going that way. So be courageous in your telling. It will take you far. 3, know you belong in the room. I keep hearing this thing from my friends. It's called imposter syndrome. That's the overwhelming feeling that you are in a situation where you don't belong, and thus people sort of melt down when they're there. I do not buy this. To me, imposter syndrome is some crap someone made up to make you feel okay about the fact that you are wasting your audience. And I don't think anybody should buy into it. If you are in a room, you belong in that room. When I'm telling a story, I don't start second-guessing myself. I don't worry if my audience wants to hear from me or what they want to hear from me. I don't worry about the network and what they think of what I'm going to say. I'm there. ABC already gave me my night of television. They clearly already believe in my telling of stories. My audience now already shows up for my telling of stories. They show up for the Shondaland. So I'm in the room. The room is mine. And I don't worry about whether or not I should be there, whether this campfire belongs to me or whether I might lose it. I just start telling stories. Grey's Anatomy was my very first job in television. Now let me tell you, it is very easy to get fired from your very first job in TV. I see it happen all the time, even if you create the show. But I didn't know that. I didn't know how easy it is to get fired. So I just acted like no one could fire me, with an extreme amount of confidence, the opposite of imposter syndrome. I had this whole thing where I thought, I'm the only one telling this story. How could they fire me if I'm the only one who knows what happens next? Which is a really crazy way to come to a very $100 million, billion-dollar business. But it worked. I acted like no one would fire me, and no one fired me, even when I did a lot of stuff that was totally worth firing me for. But I was there, and I belonged because I was there, and I acted like that. I'm here because I belong. And I want you to think about this for whatever situation you're in, because you belong in every single room you're in. And you don't have to wait for anybody to tell you you belong. As a matter of fact, you never wait for someone to tell you that you belong in a room, because you'll wait forever. The moment you start questioning your right to be in the room, everyone else starts to question it. It goes, she seems a little, wait, is she supposed to be here? Because she doesn't act like she thinks she's supposed to be here, so maybe somebody made a mistake. So you never question it. No, you remember that you belong in every room, and you know how you know it. It's because you're in the room. You belong in that room because you're there. You are in a room, thus you probably, definitely, absolutely belong. Don't squander the opportunity. Just get to work and do the work that the rest of the room is doing. 4, speak up. And I say speak up because delivery and telling a story is everything. You want to hold your audience's attention. You want them to be so engaged in my stories that they don't pause to think, wait, that is crazy unrealistic what just happened. I try to make every story I tell sound and seem exciting and bold and possible in its own way. I also believe that repetition is an amazing weapon for this. And I realize that I don't just do this with every story I tell on screen. I do this with everything. When people very early in my career asked me what my goals were, and we're talking back when I had nothing on the air and no TV deal, I didn't say, I hope one day I get a show on the air. No, I said, I plan to take over the world through television. I spoke up. And it was audacious. I was like a pipsqueak who'd made a princess sequel and a movie starring Britney Spears. I planned to take over the world through television. I was very bold, I was very loud, and I was definitive. I planned to take over the world through television. I said it often, and I mean I said it all the time to everyone, anyone who would listen. And you know, when I wanted a second show, and then a third show, and when the network wanted to build a night of TV, they never worried if I could do it. Because I'd been telling them for years that I planned to take over the world through television. So by the time I did it, for them, it was already a fact. What made the words feel plausible, what kept them from seeming like the rantings of an egomaniac, was all the hard work I was putting in. I worked as hard as I could all the time because I believed I was going to take over the world through television. So I wanted to know as much and be as prepared as possible for when it happened. I worked so hard that people stopped thinking it was unrealistic. So be ambitious and audacious in telling people your goals. You don't want to be a manager, you want to be a partner. You want to own your own company. You want to take over the world of money management through I don't know what, because if I did, I'd be doing that too. But speak up about your goals. I mean, I've created positions in my company for team members who have been very vocal about their goals. I had 2 assistants who spoke up their goals, and those 2 women built my entire digital department. The biggest thing I can tell you about telling story that people want to gather for, about being someone people want to gather for, is this. Like your audience. Don't just know them, don't just talk to them, like them. Get inside their shoes and understand them. My demographic is age 12 to 75. Seriously. They're women, they're men, they're all over the world. And sometimes that means I'm writing to an audience of very liberal teenage girls. And sometimes I'm writing to an audience of conservative grandmothers who live on the other side of the globe. And sometimes I'm writing to both at the same time. And I like them all. I appreciate them, I respect them, because I spend a lot of time thinking about them and having compassion for them and wondering what life is like for them in their community, in their house, in their space. And because of that, I think I am uniquely able to speak the emotional language that translates to them. My audience is my campfire community, and it is filled with amazing, interesting people, beautifully different kinds of people, some of whom do nothing but yell at me about my characters. And I still like them. Mainly because they're clearly embracing many of the points I just shared with you. They're going left when others are going right. They're speaking their minds, being themselves, and they have the comfort of fans who know they belong in the room. That's my audience. Yours is different. Is it the people who work for you? Or the people who work with you? Is it the people you work for? Do you need to finally be seen by them? Is it your family? Do you need to take your family and pull them together and gather them and turn them from a bunch of people who live in one house into a singular tribe? Are you the audience for yourself? Has whatever flame that used to light you up inside just gone out? Because every last one of those audiences is a valid audience. But in order to reach them, you have to like them. You have to have compassion for them. You have to care about them in a way that is non-judgmental and more about the goal and not about the ego. If you want to have the power of the campfire, you have to be willing to leap in and do the work, but for the audience that works for you, and for the story that works for you, for the dreams that you want to weave. There are no rules here, no one specific magic answer. I'm just saying it's all in the telling. Now, you might be sitting out there right now thinking that this writer lady is absolutely insane and maybe a little too obsessed with fire. And you might be right. After all, I did tell you I was a professional liar. But I stand here from a place of power and a place of prosperity and a place of actual peace and happiness. A single mom of 3 kids, mother of many shows, and I tell you this, I have one amazing skill, and I have used it to get me anywhere and everywhere I have ever wanted to go. I tell stories, I make campfires, I build tribes, and I do it every day, all over the world. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Shonda. I was so excited. I wanted to jump the gun.
I know, me too.
So first of all, congratulations on being inducted to the Television Academy's Hall of Fame, first of all.
That was pretty amazing. It was yesterday.
Huge, huge honor. So I remember hearing a story that Kerry Washington told when she was going to meet you for Scandal. She said the doors of the elevators opened and she saw this big sign that said Shondaland, and she thought, am I going to become part of a cult? And she said by the end of the meeting, she was in. She was a proud member of Shondaland. So we know what Shondaland does, but tell us about the culture that you've created at Shondaland.
And it's interesting, when she came to meet, if you really think about it, we had Grays, and I think we had private practice at the time, but that was it. And it was really like putting the big word Shondaland on the wall of our tiny little offices was about building a culture that I wanted us to have. So it was one of those things of like saying, this is who we are, before we had enough people to be that thing. I wanted to work in a place where everybody liked going to work every day. And I called it the matriarchy, because, Hollywood's filled with patriarchies. So I wanted to call it the matriarchy, and I wanted everyone to feel like this was a place where you could go and you were supposed to enjoy your job, and if that wasn't happening, there was something sort of wrong with either the job or how the job was being done around you. And I wanted people to enjoy it and love it and feel creative and inspired and not feel beleaguered, not feel like there was sexism, not feel like they were being seen by the color of their skin, not feel any bias, feel like if you had a baby, you could tuck it under your arm and bring it to the office because nobody cared. And I wanted it to be a place where people could thrive.
I love that. I've read that you have fiercely loyal people who work with you, and that writers move with you from show to show, and that you're even grooming some of them to be the next you. Is that true, and why do you do that?
You know what's great about finding people when they're young is everybody's eager and everybody's excited and everybody wants a chance. And what I find happens out in the world is people only want to give chances to people who are already up there. They already
Especially
want people with fancy pedigrees already. And I think, well, here are all these wonderful young people with fantastic, interesting ideas. Some of them are people who, they're not necessarily young in age, but they're young in the business. They've had other careers, they're now stepping in. They're excited, they have new ideas. And to me, there's a thing that happens where people hire a writer, and if the writer doesn't immediately get what they're doing, they fire those writers and they move on, which I find bizarre because if the person can write, I don't know how I expect that person to immediately be able to write like me or think like me or understand my story sense. I think you invest in people and you teach them the way we tell stories in Shondaland. And once you do that, that's perfect. You don't have to spend time reteaching every season. And then you can send those people out to help run other shows or give them their own shows and watch them grow, which is what we've been doing for years. And people want to stay because they feel appreciated.
So I know that you will be producing a series for Dove's Real Beauty, and you're working with Planned Parenthood to craft a campaign. Has this advocacy piece always been your intention?
You know, I think what ended up happening for me was I was making the shows. I was making Grey's, I was making Private Practice, I was making Scandal, I was producing other shows. And it was a challenge. It was a real, like, can I do this, fly by the seat of my pants, how do we make everything happen challenge? And then I got good at it. And I don't mean that in some arrogant way, but I got comfortable with the problems. Like, there was a moment where my producing partner, Betsy Beers, and I were sitting in my office, and something big happened. And we solved it in like 3 minutes. And we looked at each other, and we were like, this would have taken us a week 3 or 4 years ago. And it wasn't that we got bored, but the minute I can do something kind of easily, I start looking for something else to do. That's how I ended up with 3 shows. So I started looking for something else to do. And it was exciting to know that I could have some advocacy. The election, you know, I made the convention film for Hillary Clinton that aired at the night of the Democratic National Convention. And that was sort of the start of me going like, this is telling stories in different ways is an exciting thing to do. I was telling sort of a true story as opposed to telling a fictional story. Working with Dove was a different way to tell story. Working with Planned Parenthood was a different way to tell story. It's exciting because it's not something I've done before, and I love doing that. And it is a way of giving back and helping young women. Dove is really about talking about different kinds of beauty and restating the idea that beautiful is only one thing. Planned Parenthood is about women's health. So to me, it was about getting to do things like that.
Shonda, thank you for sharing your sage words of wisdom with us today. I respect you so much, and we've all appreciated so much from hearing from you today, so thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.